Episode 780 on this Mother's Day edition. And I just want to say happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Have a great day. It's your day and enjoy it. But I'm joined by a really special guest today on the show. His name is Charles Mincy. He's a former NFL safety. He played 10 seasons in the league. He played for the Chiefs, Vikings, Buccaneers, and the Raiders. He went to Washington University for college. And I'm really looking forward to this interview. And he's doing some great things now after his career. But we'll get to all of that. And first of all, happy Mother's Day to your mother and to all the mothers out there too again. And how are you and your family doing so far during this substitute?
Great. Happy Mother's Day to your mother as well, and
Thank you.
all the women that are mothers in your life, and everybody out there who hears this. Happy Mother's Day to you. And we're doing good, man. We're on the West Coast. The weather's nice. It's springtime, so no real complaints.
So before let me ask you this. Let's start off right with this. So do you have any when you were playing in college or in the league? Do you get to play on Mother's Day? And what memories do you have on playing on Mother's Day if you did?
Wait a minute, say that one more time. You broke up a little bit.
What memories did you have throughout your career if you played on Mother's Day?
It's kind of confusing now. We would have maybe, I don't really recall. We may have like a mini camp or something like that around this time of year, but no real games, because we played in the fall. Right now, I know everybody's playing in the fall because it's going back and forth. Because of the whole, the quarantine thing. But other than that, man, we had some mini camps of that type thing around this time of year,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you about your childhood though. While growing up, when did you start realizing that you wanted to play football? And did you play any other sports growing up? And who was that one person or role model that you had that you looked up to in the sports industry?
Well, my dad, my dad just passed away a little bit over a year ago, February of last year, 2020. And, my dad was a big baseball fan, and he actually, arrived in LA. I'm from Los Angeles, and he got to LA when the Dodgers got here in 58. So he's been a big baseball fan. I was a big baseball fan because of him, and we would go to Dodger games. And I grew up basically across the street from USC. So the first games we would go to were baseball games, USC baseball when Coach Rod Dato was there. So that was baseball was a big influence in my life as a kid. So that's what I did most of the time. Until I picked up a football a little bit later.
Oh, wow. So for you, what advantages do you get out of playing multiple sports? Obviously, it's good to play multiple sports. You learn different aspects of it. But for you, what did you learn? What was the main things that you learned playing multiple sports?
I think, for me, playing as a defensive back, catching the football, just as a skill wise, in baseball, you really have to focus on the ball. You have to see the way the ball spins, the way it comes off the bat, the way the wind pushes it in the air. So, I think for all those things, that was a good start for me because I really focused on being a defensive player because when you're a kid, you don't really face live pitching. So it's just about mainly it's people hitting the ball to you, So, that was a good skill that transitioned over to football.
So for you, when you started playing football, did you play multiple positions on offense or you always wanted to be a safety or what was your process like?
When I was a little kid, I went out for the local youth team with a bunch of guys in my neighborhood. And the way the youth football is it's a weird dynamic because, there's a lot of fathers and coaches that are friends and, there's a dynamic already created with teams. So you got to kind of earn your way in and they already have people that are doing what they feel they should be doing or the quarterback is this coach's son. So I got to a team where I didn't really, know anybody. And they just stuck me at linebacker and told me to play. And I just kind of did what came natural. And for some reason, the game kind of always came naturally to me. I could see things develop in a way that, looking back on it now, I realize I just kind of had a knack for seeing plays develop from the defensive side, and I would just stick my face in there. And, and that's kind of how it did. So when I first started playing, I played linebacker. I didn't really play any offense, much offense, in youth sports and youth football.
So for you, I want to talk about your recruiting process. So coming out of high school, how many offers did you get, and what made you choose Washington? And obviously you're from California. So did you get any offers from UCLA, USC, or those other California schools?
Total of about 0 offers coming out of high school, and that I don't know if you got that, because I know I don't know if my internet is kind of bugging right now. Yeah. But I didn't get any offers coming out of high school. I ended up going to a junior college, Pasadena City College, and that from there, after my first year, I really did well as a freshman, and I was getting a good deal of attention, and I got tons of letters. Back then it was letters. Schools would send you letters and that type thing. You don't get that anymore, but I would just get mail, and I had maybe a couple boxes full of it. And I think the where I really felt I was getting recruited was when the University of Miami showed interest. But and I had an offer from them. I had a bunch of offers coming out of junior college, but not from USC and UCLA, which is strange because those are schools that I knew, and I grew up across the street from USC. And at that time I lived down the street from USC, and I really wanted to go there, but neither really showed much interest. At the time, it's just a Pac-10. So I got offers from the Pac-8 except USC, UCLA.
Yeah, so
Pac-7, because I don't remember getting a Stanford offer. So let's say it was 7 of the 10 schools at the time.
Yeah. So what did you like about Washington University, and what was what was their pitch to you, and what was it like just playing in front of those fans there at Washington?
It was great. I got to make a correction though, Nathan. I got to make a correction because Washington University, and it gets confusing because there's 3 or 4 references to Washington. So it gets confusing. It's the University of Washington. Because if I just let it go, Washington University is in St. Louis, and we always get confused with them. Or people will say, well, Washington and DC. And then if we say, no, the state of Washington, then they'll say Washington State, which is our rival. So right. Everybody does that. So I just have to make sure that I get it out there. But Washington was great, man. It was, it was a great experience. I loved it. I love Seattle. I still, to this day, if I were not to live in LA, I'd probably live in Seattle. It was a great opportunity, man. It just was, it came down between there and Tennessee. Those are the 2 trips I took, and I chose Washington, and it was an easy choice.
Yeah, sorry for the mistake over there.
Nah, it's common. So I always kind of, put it out there because that's just bragging rights, Don't want to be confused with Wazoo, which is Washington State. So,
yeah. So, all right. So before we get to your draft experience, what were the main things that you learned? What were the main things that you learned as a college football player from your coaching staff, your teammates, that got you ready for the next level?
The main thing I learned that got us ready for the next level. Just work, man. There was it was a big, heavy work ethic at Washington. in the weight room, conditioning, scheduling. Like Coach James, Don James, he just rest in peace. He's passed away a few years ago, but he was a big thing on being places on time, and our schedules were in the day were kind of designed so you really didn't have a lot of downtime to do nonsense. So sticking to a schedule and just being prepared. So those two things, I think, just being prompt and on time, and the work ethic, was really instilled there at Washington, and I embraced that. So I think that helped me in the draft process, or at the next level at least.
Yeah, so now let's get to your draft experience. Obviously, you got drafted in 1991, round 5, pick 22 from the Kansas City Chiefs. So obviously the draft was a lot different from now. So take me back to the call and waiting for your name to be called, and experience it with your family. And once you got your name called from the Chiefs, what was it like? What was the feeling like?
Like you said, it was different. I know the year before we watched, we had played University of Florida in the Freedom Bowl in Anaheim, and their running back was Emmitt Smith, and we beat them pretty good, to the point that Emmitt Smith took off his stuff and was like, quit, like, I'm done. And he knew he had bigger, better things in store, so he's like, I'm good. And then I remember watching him get drafted the year before and felt like, oh, we played against him. That was a big thing. My experience was different. I wasn't sure where I was going to go. I was all the way from the second to I don't know where. So the first day went by and I didn't get drafted. Actually, later in that day, I just went bike riding with a friend. We just took off and rode along Lake Washington, and then, just kind of just whatever. And I fell asleep, woke up the next day. Well, actually, my roommate hit me up and said he had got drafted by the Denver Broncos, Greg Lewis. And I was like, oh man, congrats, big thing, I went to sleep, and maybe 20, 30 minutes later, they had called me with the phone, and it was Tony Dungy on the phone from Kansas City, and said that, hey, Charles, we just took you in the 5th round. We have you penciled in as safety. So, the draft was different, man. It was, I don't know what time it was. It was like 7 a.m. or something like that here. And they were, still at it there. So, it was different than it is now, but it was still exciting, still an exciting and, unbelievable moment.
Obviously, what was your mindset going into rookie minicamp and going there as a rookie and working hard, trying to make the roster? And if you look at that Chiefs roster, was talented. I looked at it on my phone before, and you played with Christian Ayoki. I don't want to get his name wrong, but the
Okoye.
Yeah, the Nigerian. I think his nickname was a Nigerian freak, I think, or
the Nigerian Nightmare.
The Nightmare. Yeah. So you guys, you were surrounded with talented players, and what was it like playing with the Chiefs and playing with that type of running back?
Well, that was interesting because I'd played cornerback my entire high school and college career, so when I got to that day of the draft, Coach Dungy was like, we have you penciled in as safety. And I was like, oh, cool, but with the Chiefs, I knew Christian Okoye was there, and I'm like thinking, man, that's the dude you're gonna have to tackle in practice probably, so you just took on a challenge, man, because you didn't really have any other choice. That's what you want to do with your life, so you got to suck it up. And we had a really talented group of guys, particularly on the defensive side. It was Derek Thomas and Neil Smith, and we had when I got there, all the defensive backs were probably the best in the league, So we had Albert Lewis and Kevin Ross, Deron Cherry.
Yeah.
And those guys were, right up, they could be Hall of Famers if they, if they had a little bit more variety, but they were considered like the best defensive back group in the league at that time. So going to that group of people was a really exciting moment. And I just ran everywhere, man. That's what I did. I think when the whistle blew, I just ran to the ball and I just ran. And then on film, and you could see that I was running by people, getting to the football. And I think that stood out. And, and I instinctively did it. I'm not really even sure why. I just hustled and just took it on as a, obligation in a sense, to do. So I think that helped me a lot.
Yeah. So obviously, for you, how tough is it? I'm just curious for you as a player, when you obviously NFL is a business and a lot of players move around, but for you, you got to play with great organizations, obviously play with great players. But for you, how hard was it moving from team to team?
It wasn't as hard as I expected. I was always curious what other teams do, how do other teams do it, how do they run their programs, and there was differences. I would say, going from Kansas City to Minneapolis was a big change for me. Minneapolis was a great atmosphere. It was cool. I had friends there in the city, so that was cool. I had friends from college that lived out there, and so I had two guys on the team that I knew before. My college roommate was there also, so that was comfortable in a sense. But Tampa Bay was probably the most comfortable place I had been, and I felt like, I love the city. Obviously I'm from LA and Tampa is a warm city. So
yeah,
that helped, even though it was far from home. But that was probably the most comfortable I had been, in the sense that I just felt kind of free to play, and we had a really good team. And it was good to be part of something that was, blossoming at that time, because we had changed the uniforms. My first year we played in the orange sickle colors, they call them. And then the next year we went to the pewter and I guess it's, burgundy or whatever. But it was a good time to be part of, Tony Dungy completely changed that whole organization around, and it was an amazing, time, a lot of community work. Everybody on the team had something going on in the community, and it was organic too. It wasn't like you felt pressure to do something. It was just what everybody did. And me and another buddy of mine inherited this feeding program in one of the neighborhoods there, man, that you did things on Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it just blossomed into this big ordeal, man. And we were giving out shoes, and guys were donating, part of their endorsement deals to hand out shoes, and it became a big thing, man. So that time is really I really remember fondly,
Yeah. So speaking of the Tampa team, you guys were loaded with talent. You played with John Lynch, Alvin Harper, Derek Brooks, Trent Dilfer, Warren Snapp. Man, what was it like being surrounded with them and that talented roster in Tampa?
It's strange, man. It was like, it's when I was in Washington, man, I would look around the huddle and you would feel like man, like this, this huddle is loaded, and it was the same experience there, man. You'd look around the huddle and like, there's a couple Hall of Famers in that huddle. There's at least 3 guys that were in that huddle that are Hall of Famers. And that was incredible. And not only that, man, also in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And in Tampa, man, our coaching staffs were Hall of Fame. Like Kansas City was incredible, man. Man, his name, what's the Dallas Cowboys head coach now? I forget his name.
Mike McCarthy.
McCarthy was there. He was really? A GA or something like that. And he was a nobody there at the time, but it was him. It was Coach Marty Schottenheimer, rest in peace, who just passed. Bill Cowher was there. Wow. Herman Edwards was there. Ooh. Tony Dungy was there.
Oh my God.
Howard Mudd was there, and Bruce Arians was there. You know, so we had an all-star, you know, coaching staff, man, guys I gained a lot from and, you know, really respected. And then the same when I got to Tampa, man, our coaching staff was, you know, Herman Edwards, Tony Dungy, wow. Lovie Smith, Rod Marinelli, Monty Kiffin, you know, guys that, you know, were really instrumental in, you know, me as a coach now, that I just took and borrowed a lot of stuff from, you know, schematically and just character-wise. I think as coaching, I think that's the biggest part of being a successful coach is just character. You know, that I think goes a long way as far as, you know, talent does too, but character is a big thing.
Yeah, I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan here in Jersey, and Mike McCarthy is a great coach, and we also had obviously Monte Kiffin was part of our staff before, and also Rod Marinelli, and I really love your Tampa 2 defense. What you guys played there, and speaking of those coaching staff you just mentioned, what was it like? Obviously, connections is really important in the sports industry while playing sports, and you were able to have the connection with Tony Dungy, and the same pretty much the same half of the coaching staff went to Tampa too. So what was it like having the same coaches in Tampa with Tony Dungy there too, with both on both teams?
It was good. You know, I was at 3 different places with Tony, you know, and so I guess I kind of followed him around in a sense. And you know, continuity is always big in sports. I don't think people put enough emphasis on it. You know, familiarity with people, trust is a big thing. So having the same, you know, people around is major. People that you know, that you count on, that you trust. In the coaching, you know, circuit, trust is everything because your job relies, and football is like no other game. It's like you depend on other people so much. As a player, half of the time, no matter how good you are, you're not on the field at least half of the time. Yeah. You know, so you're depending on other people to get it done. So there has to be trust factors. You have to know how to have camaraderie with other people. Otherwise, you can't have a successful team.
So what was it like playing in the Tampa 2 defense? Take me to that. And obviously Rod Marinelli and brought it to Dallas I think some point. But what was it like playing underneath the Tampa 2 defense?
Okay, well, and you know, another correction, and obviously you wouldn't know this, but this is something I'll just put out there. Tampa 2 defense is a defensive call. It wasn't a philosophy of the entire defense like most people think. We might mainly play cover 3, okay, which is like an 8 in the box, you know, that's where and because we had John Lynch, John Lynch was that extra guy in the box that they just used because he was, you know, I mean, obviously he was good at that. So that was our bread and butter defense was, you know, cover 1, man to man, but mainly cover 3. And so Tampa 2 was our passing defense. So once we got people into a position where they needed to throw the football, then we'd line up in cover 2 or some form of it or disguise it and get to it. And that gave people a lot of problems because, you know, Warren Sapp and Brad Culpepper and those other guys were up there. Tyoka Jackson at the time. We had Reagan Upshaw. We had really a front 4 that was really furious and got after the quarterback without us having to blitz all the time. So, you know, being able to play that cover 2 and using it as an alignment, like we would line up in it and then go to other defenses so people would thought we were playing 2, and then we'd move into something else. It gave us a lot of advantages. And in Tampa 2, you know, speaking of that specific defense, when we would play it, it was kind of like a 2.5, you know, because you name the defenses after how many guys are deep in deep coverage. And in cover 3 is 3 guys deep, 2 corners and a safety. In cover 2, the safeties are deep, covering half the field. But in Tampa 2, it's 2 safeties and the middle linebacker drops really deep on whoever is like what they call a seam receiver, the number 3 receiver running up the middle of the field. And that's what people do. They attack the middle of the field because it's so hard to cover. So because Hardy Nickerson was so athletic as a middle linebacker, which you don't really have back in the day, you just had these big old 250, 55-pound middle linebackers who would just stuff ISO. But Hardy could do that. And he was athletic enough to drop in the middle of the field. So we were at an advantage, and we use him and sometimes Derek Brooks to kind of run along with those faster seam players. So that was kind of our philosophy, you know, but it wasn't solely just 2. That was our pass defense.
Yeah. So for you, what was it like playing with a guy like Derek Brooks? And he obviously a heck of a player in the NFL. And what was it like just being on the same team with him?
Brooks was a good guy. He was one of the first guys I kind of met and hung out with there because there was a guy there that would do we'd make a little extra money on the side by doing appearances and autograph signings. And this one local guy would just set him up, you know, and that's what he did. And he set up one with me and Brooks where we took a limo all the way into Orlando to do an appearance. And so we hung out, and he was a good dude, man, humble dude, you know, Florida guy, man, that just, you know, kind of down home dude that just was kind of just a real active and one of those guys that ran to the football. And, you know, that was kind of the thing. If you weren't running to the football, you were a loaf. You was going to stand out. And he was a good dude. Me, him, Hardy, Tony Bowie, a couple of us used to hang out. We used to go to this one Bible study there locally, man. So it was a good group of guys there, man. I think that's why the success that happened there happened.
So for you, looking back at your career, and how grateful are you to be in this position, to be able to play 10 seasons, play with legendary players, and play with Hall of Fame coaches? How grateful are you to be in this position? And now you're coaching. So what's it like to be on the different side of it and looking at it in a different aspect?
Well, I'm grateful. I think it almost seems kind of set up for me to do what I do as far as coaching goes. And I've been able to do so many things. I've been able to travel the world, which is probably the one thing that I think has been the most of a blessing, man, just to see other people and do other things. And I've done football camps, coaching everywhere, all over the world, man. Like I've done a football camp in South Africa, you know, I've done one in Alaska, you know, so, you know, it's been a blessing, man. You know, football has really been a vehicle that's kind of taken me a lot of different places, you know, and, you know, for me, you know, just a kid, you know, from, you know, humble beginnings, I guess. I'm from South Central Los Angeles. You know, I used to follow the USC band. I remember one time I got in trouble, man, just for following the USC band. One morning I was supposed to go to the store for my mom to buy cereal. And I ended up hearing the band and just followed the band to the Coliseum. And I didn't have a ticket to get in, but I sat outside and, you know, just listened and played football with some of the kids that were outside. And when I got back home, man, my mom had called the police and had everybody looking for me because I was going all day. And I just fell in love with the game, man, from when I was that young, you know, and I couldn't really explain it to you. You know, I don't really have an explanation for that. It just naturally was this inclination, you know?
Yeah, it's ironic that you brought up that story on Mother's Day too.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, that is a crazy Mother's Day story, man. And you know, my parents were really, I grew up at a time at the height of all the gang wars and all that stuff that was going on, and there was pressure in a sense to, hey man, do you want to join? And I feared my dad more than I feared, the neighborhood gang in a sense, and my mom always kept, me in church and would drag me even when I didn't want to go. So I had this internal kind of obligation to do what I knew was right, and that kind of helped me escape some of the hurdles and potholes that a lot of my friends did not, and even some of the plagues that wear you down in life, man. I was fortunate enough to kind of get out of that because my parents, for the most part, it was just I was blessed to have the people I had as parents.
So before we get to your coaching career now, I want to ask you. I obviously I shared Trent Dilfer's post on LinkedIn when the draft was starting, and that's how I found your page. I think you liked my post, and that post got a lot of traction. I think when I shared it, and for you, Trent Dilfer has been through a lot as a player in the and with the family, and he's really a great broadcaster now and covering football. So for you, what was it like seeing him succeed at a high level as a quarterback and being his teammate? What was it like?
Yeah, Trent, followed the whole. He's one of those guys that you could probably do a movie about his life. I don't know how highly recruited. I'm guessing he wasn't really highly recruited out of high school because he ended up going to Fresno State, and being a California kid with USC and UCLA here, if he was that highly recruited, he probably went to one of those schools. So I'm assuming he wasn't. But he lit it up at Fresno State, which got him to the NFL. And he got to the NFL and, a lot of pressure, a lot of things as a quarterback, a lot of, expectations. And, he had a lot of highs and had a lot of lows. And he was part of what we were doing there to bring that place back, But I think, the biggest thing for, like I said before, man, character is such a big part of it. And I heard him reference saying that, hey, man, it finally clicked for me at one point in time, and he had all the arm strength. He could throw the mess out the ball. Like he could throw it, he was, athletic enough to avoid, the rush. He wasn't a stiff. So, as far as the athletic part of it, he had no deficiencies. It's just understanding and it clicking. And I think for all of us, it happens at a time when you're probably you're in the down part of the apex of your physical career, and then you start to get it. And I think I heard somebody say that he had said that, and man, it ended up working out great for him, winning the Super Bowl and understanding that, man, you got to let this game, you got to depend on the other people around you and let it work that way. And I think he really understood that, and, I know what he went through with his son passing, and that was tragic, and that just puts a whole different perspective on life and football and any job or anything that, man, it's really about the people, and when, and his perspective is, you can see he's coaching, and what coaching is pretty much, and man, I want these people to know what I know. Look, I got these answers have been kind of revealed to me. I got secrets. I want you to know these secrets,
Right.
and sometimes it's hard because people don't really want to hear, kids don't want to, they just some old grouchy dude to them, you're like, no, look, I got these secrets to tell you, and you want to pass them down, man, and you're excited about doing it. And that's what coaching kind of is, and he's found that. And now, that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. So now to transitioning to your coaching career, what's it like now helping these young kids develop their games and succeed in their levels? And what's it like to be being a coach now?
For me, I think, and I've been thinking about this, man, because I've struggled because I feel like, I put so much time and energy, particularly because I've been coaching high school and I never really, I have sought other coaching positions. I did an internship with the Seahawks and I did a year at Occidental College. And, I've applied for other jobs, but it's typically what's come to me has been coaching high school and just there's no real money in it. So I've been bleeding out money, coaching in a sense. And sometimes I regret it because I feel like it's put a strain on my family and my own kids and whatever. But it's just I felt an obligation to do it, man. I'm from the inner city and I've coached primarily in the inner city pretty much the whole time. I coached at my old high school, Dorsey High School, and I coached at Inglewood High School. And most of the time. And between those two places, I've had a lot of success on the field, but a lot of success just coaching kids, man, and kind of pouring into their lives and my friends. I had a decision to make when I got the head coaching job at Inglewood. Like, do you want to have guys that are really good coaches and but I don't know those people, and I just kind of got people that I knew that were good people, and we figured like, man, we could figure out the football part of it after, and we did, and that ended up being a really big move because we had 5 kids from Inglewood go to the NFL, and we had like 2 Army All-Americans and have a couple kids still playing right now. So it's been a blessing, man. And the same at Dorsey, there's so many things to overcome too, man. It's like I said, as a coach, you have like this thing where I've learned these things, I have these secrets, I have this stuff to share. But not only do the kids sometimes not want to hear it, like other adults aren't prepared to hear which, they just want you to fill a spot sometime in high school. Like they want you to babysit and be quiet and stay out the way. And you're trying to make the program exciting, make it a draw, make it something that the kids want to be a part of. Otherwise, it won't affect their lives, And so that is kind of tough to do because other people, a lot of academians, they don't see the value in athletics. And often those are people that they choose the route of academics because they feel that's all they can do, or they felt slighted by, some football player who didn't treat them right in high school. So sometimes it's an antagonistic relationship, and that's tough because you're really using football as a vehicle to get these kids other places. And it's the thing that they'll listen to, that group of kids. And you have a lot of alpha males on the campus that, particularly in inner city schools, that we're the ones dealing with them. When there's a fight on campus, they're calling us. When there's gangs on campus, we have to deal with them, and sometimes that's, it's tough. I don't mind doing it. I love doing it. It's just, I feel slighted sometimes by the other adult people that don't get, what the game does for people that are attracted to it. There's a certain mentality of those type people. And I grew up in the gang era, and those are the same competitive, ultra, us against them type people. Those type people are around, and if they don't have a proper community to be a part of, man, then sometimes they do things that are off.
Yeah.
And that's in every community around the nation, and it's with every color of people too, So yeah, I'm excited about what I'm doing. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. So there you go.
Yeah, no, it's really inspiring what you guys. I love having listening to you guys' stories after your playing careers and what you guys are doing, and especially coaching. You guys are coaching even I had a lot of people on the we had a lot of people on the show. Obviously, you were the 780th episode, and we have learned a lot from all these shows we've been doing, and it's just great to see former players coaching young players now. It's just it's amazing what I'm seeing. And so now we do this fun little segment. It's called the rapid fire segment. You ready for this?
I think so.
So
let's see.
So I'm sure you watched the draft this year. What are your thoughts on this year's draft, and what are some of the top defensive backs that you like in this year's draft, who got drafted this year?
Obviously, sometimes I don't really get into a lot of the names. I like the draft part of it. Actually, obviously J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain were, they're legacy players. Their dads played in the NFL, and those dudes are, gifted beyond, most. I like the Micah Parsons kid, the linebacker. I liked him personality-wise. I think he's the type dude that can do a lot for a team, not just in his ability, but just personality-wise. He seems like suited for the NFL. He has a lot of personality, but I think emotionally he cares about what's going on. I think that type of player always works well for a team. So, Dallas needs that. And the quarterbacks, man, it was cool to see. I think they kind of, in a sense, fell where they needed to be. Chicago hasn't had, since McMahon, like they haven't really had that dude at quarterback, man. And I think that Justin Fields can be that guy. Trevor Lawrence that's kind of tailor-made, that whole thing. He didn't even have to go far, had to just jump a state, to be where he is. And that's obviously a really great situation.
Trey Lance is
Urban Meyer being there. Trey Lance pick was a phenomenal pick for them. And I know John Lynch. So I was telling people, man, that's going to be the pick, because I know that he's going to respect the toughness of Trey Lance. When you see him run, he's a tough dude. I knew that would resonate with Lynch. And then, their head coaches coached, mobile and, agile quarterbacks before. So that's kind of the thing. I hope they don't lean on that. I hope that what I'm hoping happens, this is what I sincerely hope happens. I hope that the quarterback, the Garofalo, starts the season and they keep that passing regimen in that traditional style of play. And when Trey Lance does promote, because they're not going to keep both of them there, they'll probably end up trading Garofalo. But when Trey Lance does, end up being the starter, that is on the basis of being a real quarterback and being able to sit and learn under Garofalo and, and get some of that stuff handed down, man, because people don't understand that's not an easy job. And they see people do it, but learning from a guy like Garofalo, man, who is a level-headed, able to deal with a lot of nonsense, and drama, I think that's going to be a good thing. And I think it's going to work out for both of those guys. I think the other guys in the draft, man, the quarterback going to the Jets.
No, Zach Wilson, yeah.
Zach Wilson, Saleh is a defensive coach. There's no way of knowing how that's going to go. And the tough part is we always kind of put it on the quarterbacks, but it's probably half and half. It's probably the quarterback half and the offensive coordinator is the other half of how successful that is. And I've seen quarterbacks get blamed for, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And I look at the scheme, even in the NFL, I see things that they're doing and it's trash. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case with the Jets. It has traditionally been the case with them, but I've seen these situations happen where the quarterbacks get blamed, and they're working in a scheme that's not really conducive to being successful.
So, favorite memorable game that you played in Kansas City and Tampa?
Favorite memorable game that I played in Kansas City. Well, I think there were a lot. I remember the roar of the crowd. I remember when we played Denver, and it was pivotal to get into the playoffs. We were playing because they were a division team. And I remember backpedaling, and they got their hands on John Elway and like spun around. And I remember just running to the pile, because he would always run to the pile, because sometimes, a guy go down and then they'll pop out. And they hit him, and there was a fumble. And one of my teammates had it, and he just looked up at me at the time and pitched it to me, and I caught it and ran it in for a touchdown, and that was a big, big, memory there that was, exciting. That year I had 3 touchdowns, so that was incredible. Tampa, the most memorable game would be when we played Green Bay at Green Bay. And it was the playoffs, and we ended up losing, but it was the game after my mom had passed, and so that was the most memorable game, because I just, you don't know how to respond or what to respond, but I felt good playing in that game. I felt like I was doing it for her, and that's probably the most memorable, of my career. But it was a lot of good games there too. So yeah, that was a good time.
Funniest teammate that you played with?
Funniest teammate is gonna be Santos Stevens. He was in Kansas City. He's one of my best friends in the world to this day, and dude, just he would have all these old references to, all kind of old TV shows, Sanford and Son, and stuff that went back years even then. So yeah, he was a funny dude. Had a lot of funny guys though. There were a lot of funny guys, man, that kept locker rooms going. So but yeah, that was probably one of my funniest teammates.
So it's kind of funny how everything comes in full circle. So obviously you had Bruce Arians as a coach, and now he's coaching in Tampa. And what was it like when seeing them win the Super Bowl last year against Kansas City? Ironic is both former teams were playing each other in the Super Bowl. So what was it like seeing that, and seeing Bruce Arians winning that championship for them, and Tom Brady winning his seventh ring? And does this team remind you of the team that you had with Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, and the other players you had?
It reminds me of that time. The teams don't, because when people always ask you, what's your favorite team? And then once you get to the NFL, any team that you're on, it's about the people. I mean, it is about for the fans, it is about the helmets and the jerseys, but when you're part of that team, it ends up being about the people. And so it does remind you of those times, but then things change, and it's a professional business. So you end up changing teams, not out of disloyalty, but it's just out of, it's a business. And, as far as Bruce Arians goes, I remember him, I was a rookie, and like I always had a knack for seeing the way things develop and just kind of blowing plays up. Like I just would figure it out. And I remember there'd be times where they'd have something going on offense, and I was on the scout team, and he'd be like, he motioned me like, Mincy, like, hey, chill out. Like, he'd tell me like, not right now. Just, he would like, we had a thing. If he was trying to make something work, he had a thing he would tell me like, hey, don't, don't disrupt it. And I would, man, because he was just a good dude, man. He was there's so much pressure on coaches that sometimes some of those coaches aren't as personable as they could be. But he was like a good guy, I remember other people got along to him, and he coached at Temple before there, so he knew a couple of guys that were on the team there, Kevin Ross and Todd McNair, and they were good dudes. So, that seeing him win, man, he deserved it. He's the type of guy that is loyal. He's a player's coach in a sense. He's loyal to people, and he understands people, and that's what I mean by character. So much of what winning is about, man. And I think the same for Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady physically is past his prime. Obviously, he's going to work hard to do what he does, but it's really the character, man. It's like he treats everybody the same, and you hear everybody say it. Look at the game, the Super Bowl, after they win, and he's celebrating with the defensive guys. Like the defensive dudes are coming up to him, and they're celebrating, giving up hugs and all that type of thing. And that means that he's connected with everybody in the room. And in the NFL, everybody feels like they're stars. So if you're a star, you come to a team and they don't like you, they don't care. They don't care if you're a Hall of Famer or whatever. If they think you're a butthole, they're going to treat you like one, but you could see like they had a genuine love for him. So that resonates on the team, man. So it was good to see them win. Obviously Kansas City won the year before, and I think they're going to win more. So I don't feel sorry for them. I'm glad that they're having the success that they're having, and Eric Bieniemy is a guy that I know from playing against in college, man. They've always, he's been successful at Colorado. They won a national championship. So, it's good to see, Andy Reid, obviously everybody knows how great a coach he is. So yeah, seeing both those teams, man, that I played on has been, good to see have that type of success.
So for you, would you consider being a coach in the NFL at some point?
Absolutely, I would. It's just about getting the opportunity, and there's only so many opportunities. But, absolutely. I feel like what I've done, I think the advantage that I have as a coach with coaching high school is that you have to learn it all, and you get an opportunity to. A lot of guys in the NFL that coach through the NFL, they don't get a chance to learn the other side of the ball. And until they're head coaches, and they have to, but I've had to learn about the O-line. I've made it a point, and I've had to learn so many things. So it would be a great experience to be able to coach in the NFL, absolutely.
Yeah. So before we get to the last two things, this is a two-part question. And obviously for you, what were some of the toughest quarterbacks that you had to face in your career? And then also, what are your thoughts on the Aaron Rodgers situation?
What was the last question?
The first one was some of the toughest quarterbacks that you played against. And then the other one was, what are your thoughts on the Aaron Rodgers situation?
Oh, okay. The first one is easy, man, because Steve Young, John Elway, I got interceptions from both of those guys. Warren Moon, I got interception from. Moon. Yeah, I've picked off Brett Favre a couple of times.
Oh, wow.
But the probably toughest quarterback was Dan Marino. He would throw the ball in places that I don't think other people could. And, case in point, we were playing them one time and we were blitzing them, and they knew the adjustment on the blitz. If they see a certain person blitzing, the safety's coming down and taking that guy. So we blitzed him with the same blitz a couple of times. I remember coming down to get the wide receiver, and he put the ball there so fast that all I could do was make the tackle, because you can't show the blitz beforehand. So you got to wait. And he would notice it, get rid of the ball really quick. But then he started putting it in places like if I'm coming from the inside, he put it on the outside shoulder of the wide receiver.
Wow.
And you could see like they made that adjustment. So the receiver would come up and then turn outside instead of turning inside. And that was incredible, man. Like, and then I remember one time coming through and blitzing and making a tackle in the backfield. And he was like, oh, great job, 42. Like, he knew that, you know, hey, he didn't see me. Like, it was a cat and mouse game, man. So yeah, he was probably, he had to be, because he couldn't move. Even later in them years, his ankle was messing. He had like a boot on his leg. Oh. But he was so smart and could put the ball anywhere. So maybe him. Aaron Rodgers, I just think there's a mix of what's going on now. And lately, I honestly, I just think that their head coach and GM just handled that thing completely wrong. I think what it is, and what the NFL has been, is that, hey, look, we're the guys that make the decisions. We do X, Y, Z, and you get out there and play. And it's almost kind of like an army type of mentality, which doesn't work now. You know, I don't think it works, especially for those guys who have the leverage. And it doesn't work for anybody who feels slighted and feels disrespected. And personally, that coach you're almost the same age as Aaron Rodgers, or if not the same age. It's a disrespect, man. Like, you haven't done enough in the league to not respect or not discuss or not, you know, hold that dude in high regard who's pretty much dragging you along. Like, as a coach, you got to know, look, man, this dude is dragging me along to wins, you know? And I just think not only was it dumb, and you know, you don't, as a coach, you don't like to, you know, critique other coaches, but it is what it is. It was that I felt like that when he took the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands and not letting him go for it on fourth downs. Not only were you betting against your Hall of Fame quarterback, you were betting against Tom Brady as a Hall of Fame quarterback. You were betting against 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I just think that's ridiculous, you know, and that, you know, everybody can make a mistake, but it just goes to show you have not done enough or know enough about the league to kind of pull the boss moves that you're pulling, you know? And now they've stepped in the mess, and now you gotta, and they'll figure it out. Everybody will figure it out. They'll probably give him another contract or something, but you could avoid that, man. Like, character, again, man, like I say, character is big. And when it comes to coaching, man, like, you know, you have to have that inside voice that tells you right and wrong, even when, you know, the majority of people are going in a different direction.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think he wants to be traded, but we have to see what happens. And I think he wants to be on the West Coast, I'm hearing on reports. And actually, this week I'm having Greg Null, a former NFL quarterback. He played with the Packers, and he was in the locker room with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. So I'll get more insight with him about Aaron Rodgers. But I'm looking forward to it.
I kind of think Denver is like in the plans, because I just thought it was strange. Not that you know, I know that Teddy Bridgewater went there, and not to really knock him, but I feel like, I don't know if that's the guy that Denver feels, and he very well, I mean, Bridgewater could win a Super Bowl for them. I'm not taking that out of his hands. I'm just saying, at this point, evaluation wise, I don't think that's somebody that John Elway feels is going to be their Super Bowl quarterback. And then he passed up 2 of the top 5 guys in the draft and didn't draft a quarterback. You know, I feel like there may be, or may have been, some talks with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers made that known that day. So that, I think Denver's gonna try to pull something, you know, in this situation. So, you know, keep that, beware.
So the last 2 things before I let you go, our team is part of this foundation called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. Obviously, he's a former NFL coach. Actually, he's now offensive coordinator at Tennessee State with Eddie George, HBCU school. And congrats! I'm really looking forward to him coaching there. And I'll send you the page so you can check out the foundation. And we're trying to help them prevent human trafficking and making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe. It's really important to prevent. It's still horrible out there what I'm seeing, so we're trying to help prevent that. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers right now?
Oh yeah, man. It's been, this whole COVID issue has been more than, like, again, man, it gets back to really putting perspective on life and what's important. I just saw something on LinkedIn today, man, where, these firefighters, went to a place and found a woman and, took her to the hospital. The rest of the crew, and they stayed there with the lady's kids and, wash dishes and fix dinner, and that's just an incredible thing, man. So for the first responders and people of that, man, it's really, it's a great thing. You can't thank them enough. And I know there's issues with a lot of protests as far as some of the, some of the, police brutality issues that have happened. But I think that, speaks for a small percentage of what's really out there. And I feel like most people feel that way, that, we really support the people who are a buffer between us and danger, and, people that have, those hero inclinations, man, it's you need to support that. And I think after all the angst and stuff blows away, man, and we'll kind of understand all that stuff. So
yeah, it looks like your kid is calling for you. So there it is. So there it is. That wraps up episode 780 with former NFL safety Charles Mincy. I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. It's truly an honor. This was a great conversation. We would like to have you back as a returning guest so you can meet the full team at some point. But keep up the great work as a head coach. I hope you get as a coach. I hope you get an opportunity in the NFL pretty soon. But you and your family stay safe. Happy Mother's Day again to all mothers out there, and thank you again.
Thanks, Nathan, and God bless you and the rest of your crew and family, and happy Mother's Day. And I appreciate the opportunity. It was a good time.
Yeah.